i hvala vam što ste došli u ovako velikom broju na službeno vaganje za prvi povijesni event, ne samo ikada održan u Zagrebu, ne samo ikada održan u Hrvatskoj, nego ikada održan u ovom dijelu Europe. Mislim, ako se do sada nismo upisali na kartu svjetskih metropola, mislim da je sad Zagreb definitivno svjetska borilačka metropola. I stoga molim odmah na početku jedan veliki pljesak za čelnike UFC-a. Da, hvala čelnicima, ljudima koji vode UFC što su prepoznali da jedna tako mala država poput Hrvatske sa 4 milijuna ljudi proizvodi likove poput Mirka Filipovića, Igora Pokrajca, Filipa Pejića, vjerujem da ima njegovih navijača danas tu puno, i naravno Stipe Miočića koji će se uskoro boriti za teškaški naslov protiv Fabricija Verduma. Ne znam za vas, no još prije 2-3 godine vijest da će UFC doći u Hrvatsku je bila prvotravanjska ili prvoaprilska šala. Sjećate se onih naslova na portalima UFC dolazi u Hrvatsku. A evo sad ove godine, 2016. nismo vidjeli tu šalu, naravno, zato što će za sat vremena ovdje na vagu, na službenu vagu, izaći borci poput bivšeg UFC prvaka Juniora dos Santosa. Vidjet ćemo Bena Rothwella, vidjet ćemo čovjeka koji se čak 3 puta borio protiv Mirka Filipovića, odnosno 2 puta Gabriela Gonzagu, a vidjet ćemo naravno i hrvatske borce Igora Pokrajca i Filipa Nitro Pejića. No prije toga, to je otprilike za sat vremena, prije toga ćemo imati jedinstvenu priliku upoznati neke od najvećih UFC-evih zvijezda koji su doputovali ovdje samo zbog ove prigode, znači samo zbog druženja s vama. Imaćete priliku postaviti im pitanja, imate 4 mikrofona, koliko vidim ovo bode u oči, ali koliko vidim jedan je tamo, 2 su gore. Jedino pravilo je da morate biti pristojni, da ne možete postaviti pitanja koja nisu previše kulturna, onda će vas ljudi iz produkcije zaustaviti. No, mislim da će sve to više manje biti ok. Nažalost, imam jednu lošu vijest, a to je da ću morati od sad nadalje govoriti na engleskom. Naime, ovaj prijenos ide u čitav svijet, što nas naravno čini posebno ponosnima, no nažalost morat ću pričati na engleskom, što ne znači da nećete moći postavljati pitanja na hrvatskom ukoliko želite. Ja ću ih naravno prevesti i koliko god mogu ću vam pomoći u moderiranju. Mislim da je vrijeme da izvedemo naše goste i da počnem pričati naravno na engleskom. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you one more time for coming to this official weigh-ins for the first historical UFC event that will be ever held in Zagreb, Croatia. So, thank you one more time. This is So guys, in about an hour we will have official weigh-ins here. The fighters are ready. They are really starving. They are, dehydrated. So, but before that we will have unique opportunity to meet 3 big UFC stars that came to Zagreb only for this opportunity, only for you to meet them, to ask them questions. I know that you all know, you'll be watching official UFC weigh-ins, so you have 45 minutes to meet your guests, to meet UFC stars, and ask them whatever you want. So I will bring them on the stage in a few seconds. Just to repeat one more time, you have 4 mics, 2 downstairs, 2 upstairs, and if you ask polite questions, they will answer politely. Okay, guys, now I will introduce our guest today, of course. First, he is a former UFC heavyweight champion. He was the Pride legend. He fought Mirko Cro Cop 3 times. He is the War Master, Josh Barnett. Give it up for Josh Barnett. Josh, they love you, man. Okay. I will introduce now our second guest, maybe the most interesting fighter that ever fought in the famous Octagon. Now he works as UFC TV commentator and Fox Sports analyst. He is the outlaw, Dan Hardy. Nice to meet you, Dan. And last but not least, we have maybe the biggest European prospect in light heavyweight division. He was born actually in Lithuania, but now he lives in Toronto. He is Misha Circunov. Give it up for Misha. Okay, guys, let's start. I think, Josh, that you got the biggest applause. They love you because, you know, they are into pride. It's in Croatia, everything is about pride, all days, good MMA, and all about the matches with you and Crow Cup, and they love you. They would love you less if you won that Grand Prix final, but this way they love you so much, okay?
Well, I guess in a way, I'm kind of glad to have brought that kind of joy to everybody, although I would have liked to have won the fight, but it's been a great experience to be here in Croatia for the first time. I've been treated very warmly. The beer is good, the food is good. The weather's not so bad. I'm from Seattle, so the rain doesn't bother me, and you know, I like the architecture. So I'm really appreciative of all the camaraderie and the warm welcome I've received from everybody here in Croatia so far.
Okay, thank you, Josh. One more, please. Applause for Josh Barnett. Dan, this is your first time in Croatia. Do you feel love from Croatian people? Have you seen some city? Did you do some sightseeing?
You know, I came straight from Vegas and I got here last night. I've had a few hours of sleep and then I did a bunch of interviews today. So I've not had a chance to have a look around yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Everybody I've spoken to has been very friendly and you're all MMA fans, so we're going to get on, of course.
Okay. Are you a little bit surprised that UFC chose Croatia and Zagreb for its next destination? We are a small country.
I'm not surprised at all. You know, the UFC are aware that there are fans around the world and we could go into any market and put on a show and everyone's going to love it. And we've always had a good wealth of fighters from this area of the world. Obviously, you know, Stipe Miocic has got Croatian roots and he's one of the best fighters in the world right now. And Crow Cup is a legend of our time. I was fortunate enough to call his last fight and, you know, it just makes sense to come here. I think we've got a really strong fan base here and it's time to treat the fans to a good show.
Thank you, Dan, for this introduction. Dan, the man. Misha, the same questions as for Dan. Did you have chance to see some of the city or you will do it later?
I'll definitely check out the city a little bit later, but yesterday we had a chance to do some fan signing at the Reebok store, and the fans were amazing. I met a lot of cool people, and just excited to be here.
You're light heavyweight? I cannot believe it, man. No,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, light heavyweight, but you know, I can make 185 or down the road fight heavyweight as well. But now I fight 205, I feel very comfortable doing so.
Because you are the biggest light heavyweight I've seen in a while, man. Okay, guys, I think this is enough for the introduction. Do we have guys ready for the questions? I don't see anybody on the mics. Come on, guys. This is unique opportunity. Nobody on the mic. Come on, don't be shy. Okay, until these guys get some courage, I will ask Josh Barnett about tomorrow's headliner. Ben Rothwell is the last guy you fought. Can you please give us some of your opinion about tomorrow's main card? And of course, main event. Thank you.
Well, the thing about both Rothwell and Junior Dos Santos are known for their striking prowess and liking to keep things in their own hands for the most part and putting those hands in people's faces. The difference, though, is while Dos Santos has a lot of hand speed, is known for his good footwork, Rothwell is known as being the immovable object, the guy that can take more shots, harder shots than anybody out there and keep coming. Very heavy-handed, a lot of one-punch knockouts to his resume. And I think that when push comes to shove, I just don't know if Rothwell's power is not going to be the thing that seals the doom for Dos Santos.
So you feel like Junior is maybe ahead a little bit?
No, I feel that Rothwell is ahead. Yeah. I think that Rothwell is on a great winning streak. He's incredibly confident, and you can never discount confidence when it comes to getting into a fight.
Okay, so you agree with bookies that said that, you know, Ben Rothwell a little bit ahead. Okay.
I only agree with bookies in terms of if they want to pay me. If they don't want to pay me, then I really couldn't care less.
Okay, we will return to Ben Rothwell later because I have some other questions about your fight with Ben Rothwell. Dan, can you please give the same comment about tomorrow's main event? You are doing also live commentary, right?
No, not tomorrow. Brian Stan's commentating tomorrow. Fortunately, I'm just a guest this time, which is the first time in a long time I've been to just watch an event and
So
enjoy
you will
it.
rest.
I'm going to be able to rest, yeah, I need it. I'm very jet lagged. I did the breakdown show. I'm hoping you all seen the UFC breakdown show. It's on Fight Pass. We did the breakdown show, so we really focused on the main event fighters. And I have to agree with Josh. I think Ben Rothwell's slightly ahead. He's got a great win streak going. His confidence is at an all-time high. And one thing that he said in an interview, which I thought was a great line, he said, "Fear now works for me." You know, it just shows that he has control of his emotions now. When he steps into the fight, he feels like he can beat anybody he's up against. Obviously, Junior Dos Santos, a former champion, he's got good hand speed, he's got great boxing, great takedown defense. But Ben Rothwell has so many different ways to finish this fight, and I can't help but lean towards him at the moment.
Did you ever feel that Ben will go so high in heavyweight division? Because I remember 2 or 3 years ago, he was not in good shape. He had some problems with injuries, but now it seems that he's on his peak.
Yeah, I think it's happening at the right time. You know, he's never been a contender in the UFC before, but he's had 45 fights. You know, he's got 20 knockouts, 13 submissions. He can beat people anywhere. And if you look down his record, he had long win streaks where he was beating a lot of high-level fighters. It was only a matter of time before he got here, and obviously a little bit of conditioning and looking after those injuries is helped to get him to this stage, but now he's here, and I think he's a serious contender that everyone needs to be keeping an eye on.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Misha, we have interesting fight in light heavyweight division on the main card between local favorite, Croatian Igor the Duke Pokrajac and Jan Blachowicz. Can you please give us your thoughts on that fight?
You know, I haven't watched him fight that often, but they're both big light heavyweights and good athletes, and it's going to be very exciting fight. Local guys, so hopefully he'll get a really good fan base behind him, and it's going to be a very exciting fight.
You only have 2 fights in the UFC until now, but where do you feel, where is your spot at the rankings at this moment? I don't mean by rankings, but, you know, by quality.
You know, all these rankings and everything, I don't really pay attention to that. I just concentrate on my opponent, and I concentrate on winning the fight, and the result will show, and they'll bump you in the rankings. I'm not one of those guys that, you know, oh, I want to fight top 10, I want to fight this. I'm just excited to be in UFC, and like I said, right now I fight at 205, and who knows what future holds, and I'm just excited. Every time I fight, I'll put up a great fight.
Okay, you have a fight scheduled in 2 months, and as I think, okay, we'll return to that later. Do we have somebody on the mic? So the queue is here. Okay, gentleman over here, please go ahead.
Yeah, hello, I'm Abdul from Egypt, and big fan of all of 3 fighters. I have a question for all of them, for the 3 fighters. If you had the chance, like the UFC made, like you can make a tag team fight, who would you partner with and why? And a question for Dan, are you seeing return to the octagon in 2016 or?
Yeah, please.
Well, tag team matches, I don't know, it depends on the weight class. I think Robbie Lawler's a good person for me. Southpaw and unorthodox, and he can hit a lot harder than I can, so that takes some pressure off me. As far as coming back, I'm still planning on fighting again. I'm taking my time, I'm enjoying this time to focus on my analyst and my commentary work. And to be honest, I'm learning so much in this role. I sit and watch, 6 or 8 hours of fights a day, and I'm learning so many things that I'd not drilled in the gym before. I would go into the gym and I would use, an arm triangle choke that I've been watching on Jacare for a week, and it just comes out of nowhere. So it's quite nice to be approaching training from a different perspective. But I definitely want to fight again. I've still got that fire within me, and thank you.
Okay, guys, we can go on tag team question. Who will go first? Josh, you've done so much in Japan.
Sure. And I've never done a tag team mixed martial arts bout, although I have done tag team and 6-man tag team matches in the past. And being that I have to choose someone from the UFC, you know what? I'm going to go with a Wolverine and Colossus scenario. If people are familiar with X-Men, I'm going to choose Mighty Mouse. So we can do the speedball special. I could just sling him at my opponents. And while he's crawling all around him trying to choke him, I could punch him right in the groin.
I think they wanted 3 team guys, so one more. Please pick.
Well, he tag team. He was a tag, just two and two.
Okay, Dan, it's up to you. Sorry.
Yeah, my tag team, Robbie Lawler. I'd stick with my weight class. I'd go with Robbie Lawler. He's one of my favorite fighters. Or, you know, the Diaz brothers. Either of the Diaz brothers, I'd work with them for sure.
Okay, so it's Robbie Lawler. Misha, you?
I would think that I would choose the first as somebody like Mark Hunt, heavy hands, and then second I would think it would be John Jones. So those two, and I'll try to be in there as well, jump in, and I think that would be a pretty good crew.
So it's John Jones and Mark Hunt. Good choice, man. Okay, we can go further with the questions. We'll go next. Gentleman over there, come on.
Hi. First, I'd like to thank UFC for making this happen in Zagreb. And
Thank you, UFC. Thank you.
If you could make the prediction for UFC 200 about Diaz-McGregor 2.
I knew this was coming up. I knew. Okay, I think this is questions for...
And just one more question for Josh. Why did you stop doing your podcast?
Okay, Josh, go ahead first.
Well, first off, I stopped the podcast simply because, you know, if you feel that you can't have something done in a way that was up to the quality you expect, then you're not going to put the time and effort in. And a podcast takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of research, and I took it very seriously. But I just, the platform really wasn't there. And, you know, there were some good people there that I liked working with, like Evan the Beard, but overall, you know, it wasn't the right place for me to be, unfortunately. And so I had to put that on the shelf until I could find a way to do it that would, I feel would be appropriate. And I'll just go right into a prediction. I think that probably halfway through the second round, Nick Diaz is going to jump over the fence and nail Conor with a chair, and it's just going to be bedlam. That's
so
what's going to happen.
it's tag team match. This
No,
time.
it's not tag team. It's an interference, so it'll go down as a DQ.
Dan, your prediction?
I see it being far more competitive. I think the lessons that Conor learned from the first fight will mean that he won't be as enthusiastic in the first round this time. I think the problem in the first fight was that he threw that left hand over and over again, and Nate Diaz has got that front shoulder roll, so he was just deflecting a lot of those punches. So I think he's going to be smarter about his attack. I think he'll start to move away from the left hand and start to add a few more skills to his game. But I still see Nate winning it probably fourth round. I just think his resilience and obviously the training that he's doing for the triathlons at the moment means his conditioning is way up there. So he can just maintain a steady pace throughout. And you can't discourage a guy, especially if he's got a win over you before. The Diaz brothers have got that strong mentality.
Were you surprised before the first match, so many people underestimated Nate Diaz?
I was surprised, particularly because it was at 170. I mean, Nate Diaz is a bigger guy, there's no doubt about it. And he looks more comfortable at that weight. If you look at his fight against Rory McDonald, who's a massive welterweight, you can see how competitive he was in that fight. He's such a durable guy. And I don't think Conor took into account how much of an effect the additional weight was going to have on him. You know, I mean, he's a big featherweight, but to jump from featherweight to welterweight is huge. It would make more sense for this next fight to be at 55, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Misha, the same question, prediction?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Dan a lot. I think that in a rematch, we're going to see a very, very similar thing. I think Diaz is using the leverage really, really well, and he's taller and bigger person. And I think that in a third, fourth, fifth round, we're going to see that play out a huge difference. And I just think that McGregor cannot surprise him with his boxing anymore, because, you know, Diaz, he trains with like guys like Andrew Ward, and, you know, he does sparring with the world-class best boxers. And I don't see McGregor clinching Diaz either and not going on the ground like we all seen that. So it's a very, very big challenge for McGregor, and if he can pull that off, then, I mean, that's going to be pretty special.
Do you feel like Conor is trying to prove something because, you know, he has his division, he is a champion? Do you feel it's smart?
Of course he's trying to prove something. He's trying to prove that he can make a whole lot more money than anybody else. That's what he's trying to prove. He's also proven that he's willing to go out there and try to fight whoever, you know. I mean, that's really the only thing anyone ever has to prove, is that they are willing and able to go out there, fight, give the best fight they absolutely can muster, and leave it all in the cage. Anything more than that is just, you know, inconsequential.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
You want... Okay, we can go further with the questions. Guy over there, go Hal.
Hi guys, big fans of all of yours. Dan, my question for you, remaining on the subject of your comeback, is taking into consideration the difference in earnings these days. How much does money factor into your choice to come back? And for Josh, what was it like being choked by Ben Rothwell, and can you shed any light on the secret to his hand grip for the go-go choke?
Okay.
I'll go first for that one.
Yeah, please.
Money's a massive factor in it, if I'm honest, but not in the ways that you would think. The later stages of my career, I was far too concerned with money, especially because I'd lost 4 fights in a row, and all of a sudden I realized that I may have to do something else other than fight. So then money became a factor in my competition, whereas now I'm a commentator and analyst. I have a good job which I love. So if I return to fighting now, I'd have, you know, maybe 1 fight a year. The money's not an interest to me. I just want a place to compete. That's all I want. My job now is commentary and analyst work, so I would be able to enjoy competing purely on a martial artist basis.
Okay, the next question, I think this was for you.
You know, being on the bad end of Ben Rothwell's choke, it was it was like a slight massage. You know, my neck was very tight, and so he was in there. He was also working my traps a little bit, and his grip was delicate yet firm. His hands were very smooth, and you could tell that he took a lot of care in his appearance, and he had just recently had a very well done manicure.
Okay. Actually, this was the first time in your career that you submitted, right?
Outside of the bedroom, yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's go on. Question over there.
I have 2 questions for you, Josh. First question is, what do you think about Conor McGregor? Is he a real champion or is he fake? And can Stipe Miocic win in his fight with Verdum and get the title?
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna address Stipe versus Verdum first for all the Croatian people here today, and I think you guys have a real strong contender for a Croatian champion there. I think Stipe is a fantastic fighter. He's got a great pedigree of college wrestling mixed with amateur boxing, great hands. The biggest thing is it's all about game planning and being sensitive in the ring. I don't mean sensitive like breaking down and crying and talk about its feelings. I mean sensitive to sensing shift changes, rhythms, and patterns. I think he can instill his wrestling effectively, even against Verdum, who everybody knows is a great ground grappler. And his boxing, his hands are much quicker. He just has to work against that range and work against the kicks and the knees. But I would not count Stipe out in any way to walk away with that belt that night. And as for Conor being a champion, I mean, well, for one, I guess they're going to have another fight to give another belt onto another set of 145ers. So as far as championships are concerned, I mean, it's watering down the belt, I have to be honest. But champions are not made by belts. Champions are made by performances and by the type of effort they give. And all I've ever seen out of Conor when it comes to performing is 100%, and incredibly smart tactics at times, great use of savate in the ring, which has been pretty impressive and something that I've enjoyed to see as a savate silver glove myself, and just watching a guy go out there and always go for the finish. So if that's what you want to, if you want to judge a champion by his performances, and he's given those kind of performances.
Okay, thank you, Josh.
Okay, thanks.
Guys on the tops, okay. Just before we continue to the next question, I want to ask Dan the same question, since you are actually TV commentator and analyst, please, about Stipe and Verdum match.
I agree with Josh. He's a Golden Gloves boxing champion, which means that he's going to be able to manage that range.
I like where you're going with this. Keep agreeing with me. I love
Well,
this.
you're correct. You know, he has good sensitivity in both ranges. You know, obviously he's a freestyle wrestling champion, so as soon as the fight clinches up, he's able to feel what his opponent's doing. The same thing with the boxing. Verdum doesn't have takedowns. He's not a grappler. He's not a wrestler. He's a good grappler. He's a good submissions guy. But if you watch his fight against Mark Hunt, there were a lot of times where he took a shot to fall down to try and get him to follow him to the floor. That's his tactic for engaging a fighter on the ground. I don't see him trying to take Miocic down. So he's going to have to engage him on the feet. And although his Thai boxing is very good, I think Miocic's gauge and understanding of range is so much better. He fights long, he's got a high work rate, and the other thing as well is he's in proportion for a heavyweight. You know, a lot of heavyweights are out of proportion. They've either got a big gut or they're 10 foot tall or whatever. You're right, I'm right on that. Mirko,
He was not talking
That's
about
an odd
you.
way of approaching it. Yeah,
he is,
you know, you have
he's-
great symmetry. We should put you on a magazine cover.
he's in proportion. Like if you stood him next to a middleweight, he doesn't look any different. He doesn't look like, you know, he's not 7 foot tall or
So you're
6
saying he
foot
looks
wide.
small
or-
now?
No, he looks normal. He looks like a normal human being, which means he can maintain that energy throughout the fight much easier, I think.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Outlaw. Okay, sorry guys, upstairs, I forgot about you. Who will go next? Okay, come on.
Can you hear me? Hi guys, my name's Kay, I'm from London, England. I've got 2 questions for all of you. First one is, you're all great fighters, but who inspires you as fighters, whether it be boxers or other MMA fighters? Second question, if you could fight anyone in the UFC octagon, whether it be a politician, celebrity, who would it be?
This is an interesting one.
Let's see. I would say that I am inspired not by any one individual fighter or athlete necessarily, but more I'm inspired by people's efforts, people's extraordinary means or efforts in competition. And that doesn't have to be a fighter. I can be inspired by just about anything. I mean, short of having something just organically come my way, I could just go watch a highlight video of Alexander Karelin through the years, and that just makes me want to tear people's heads off. So I've always got something to fall back on. As for who would I fight in the octagon, given any opportunity to fight really anyone in the
I
world,
think he wants to know who you want to beat up.
who I want to beat up, that's a long list. You know, as long as they can book the arena for enough hours, I'm sure I could fill that thing. I'm sure I could. I've got enough endurance. I'll keep some Gatorade on the side. I'm sure there's plenty of politicians and all kinds of people that would deserve a good whacking.
Okay, Dan?
For me, obviously, Bruce Lee doesn't need to be said. I think
Obviously, Bruce Lee, yeah.
everybody in the UFC is inspired by Bruce Lee on some level. For me, it was always Ramon Dekkers. I've always been a big fan of Dekkers, just his attitude, his approach to the fights. I remember meeting him one time, and there aren't many people I would go up and shake their hand as a fan, and I did for him, and he's got that serial killer look in his eyes. And you know, immediately you have to take him seriously. He's a very intense person. I always respected that. As far as who I would fight, again, the list is massive. I think the person at the top of the list, just based on the recent charity work I've been doing, is Michael Vick. He was arrested a while ago for dogfighting, and now he's back playing in the NFL. I think he's a despicable human being. They rescued 56 dogs off him, and I've seen a lot of these dogs, and they're damaged beyond repair. And he's a sociopath. He's a disgusting human being. And if I could get 5 minutes with him, he would regret it.
You had some quarrel with some guys from UFC rosters about anti-trophy hunting, right? You're activist anti-trophy hunting, right? You had some quarrels with guys from UFC who are actually hunters?
Yes, yeah.
Are they on your list?
I wouldn't consider myself an activist. I would consider myself a human being with a big mouth. I think sometimes you just need to point out the error of people's ways. I mean, I've just been working with Matt Hughes, and myself and Matt Hughes have bumped heads a long time ago, and a number of times. The truth is, I don't eat meat, and that's my personal choice. And I think if people hunt to feed themselves, I have no real problem with that. It's when people hunt for entertainment and for fun. I think it's disgusting. And I think people that go out to Africa and shoot a bunch of animals, it's just an ego boost for them, and I think they need to ask themselves some questions.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Misha, 2 questions?
Yeah, for me personally, there's many amazing athletes and good personalities in general, but for me, I guess #1 would be somebody like Marcelo Garcia. He's unbelievable grappler, you know, very, very devastating submissions. Yet, if you meet him in person, he's always smiling, always, you know, saying hi. He's very humble. He doesn't think nothing of himself. Just a great, great person. And #2, I would say somebody like Gennady Golovkin. He's very similar personality. He's very humble. He's, you know, he'll help anybody, anytime. Yet, you know, one of the vicious jabs probably in boxing history. And I really like GSP as well. He's always, doesn't matter how much light he would get, how big the fights are. He's always humble, he's always respectful, and he never challenges anyone. But as soon as somebody challenges him, it's a fight, you know. So those are three. They really stand out for me personally.
Okay, what about the guys you want to big up?
And like these two gentlemen here, the list is pretty big, but the top of the list would be probably my former business partner. He'll be definitely on top of the list there.
That seems like a typical answer.
Okay, this guy is waiting for a while. Come on.
Hello, this is Vieran from Osijek. I want to ask Josh. Hi, I'm up here. I want to ask you, are we going to see you in Metamoris or some other grappling match in the future? And I have two questions for Dan Hardy. When are we going to see you at Joe Rogan Experience again? The last podcast was very good. And what do you think as a fan? Is UFC 200 better or UFC 198?
Okay, well, oh God, I'm already forgetting the question. Oh, grappling. I don't have anything set in schedule right now. There are some tournaments or some seminars that I'll be doing in America with scientificwrestling.com. You can see them and the schedule at pinandsubmit.com with the legendary high school and freestyle wrestling collegiate and freestyle wrestling wrestler Wade Shallis. He actually has the pin in the NCAA, or the record for most pins in the NCAA. So those are coming up. And doing my commentary with Jim Ross on Axis for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and trying to find a way to get back into the octagon whenever the UFC will let me go out there and exchange blows with another fighter.
There was another question for you, right? Joe Rogan.
Yeah, two questions for me. The first one was Joe Rogan's podcast. It's just a case of us crossing paths more than anything. We see each other very rarely, so it's difficult to get these things organized. And there are 101 people that Joe Rogan wants to talk to already, and he's already spoken to me, so I think I'm a bit further down the list. But I get the requests a lot of the time, so you know, maybe it's something I'll speak to him about very soon. And the other question was about UFC 198 and 200.
Yeah.
I've got to say 200. I mean, you know, it just purely because it's a massive event. There are 3 shows that week. You know, there's a fight week around it, so to be in Vegas, to be around the event, it's such a special thing. You know, there are so many fighters, so many fans there. And the matchup, I mean, I'm so excited to see McGregor-Diaz again, I'll be honest. I want to see that fight. I love super fights. I love to see guys move up and down weight classes and challenge each other, and I think that's the future of the sport, if I'm honest.
Okay, thank you, Dan. I just got a message that we got only 10 minutes left, so we have to speed it up, guys. You guy, come on.
Hi. I will first like to thank out Josh Barnett for winning Minotauro in the 2006 semifinal of Open Pride Championship. You make it easier for Mirko Krokop to win the title. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
My pleasure.
And for Dan Hardy, your walkout song, England Belongs to Me, Coxsparrow. I'm a huge Coxsparrow fan. When I saw you in 2009, I think it was in London, when I saw you with Red Mohawk, and with that song, I became your biggest fan. It was nice to meet you. A question for you. Are you still their fan? Are you going on their concerts? I'm going to Berlin next week. Will you be there?
I'm unfortunately working next week, but I did see them recently in America. They always do an amazing show. They're a fantastic bunch of guys, and I'm always listening to Coxsparrow when I'm training. Yeah, they're a great band.
Maybe Blackpool.
Maybe. Oh, they play in Blackpool, are they?
Yeah, I was there 2 times.
Okay. I'll check their website out. That sounds good. I'll see you there.
See you there.
Thank you, Dan. This man is waiting for a while. Come on, sir.
All right. Sorry. Look, I have no shame, so Junior Dos Santos, can I get an autograph?
Okay, these guys wants your autographs. Yeah, maybe later. Do you have questions, sir? Because we have only 5 minutes left. No, next one, okay?
I have a question for Josh Barnett. Josh, what do you think about heavyweight division now? We see Jared Roscoe get released from the UFC because we can say he was a little bit boring. Do you think when the people see two big guys, two heavyweights in the ring, they expect a highlight TKO or the KO or the highlight fight? What do you think about that?
Josh?
Well, simply, whenever, not just with heavyweights, any two fighters that walk into the ring, you want to see somebody going for the finish. You want to see two guys actually trying to win a fight, you know, beat the other opponent decisively, completely and entirely, not figure out a way to win just enough, or figure out a win to make a judge argue on your behalf. Yeah, I thought he won, because that's not what anybody came here to see. Nobody came to see a bunch of guys try to game a system and get away with doing as little as possible. Why the hell would anybody want to see anyone do that? I mean, that's not what I got into this sport for. And if I'm winning by decision, I'm not happy. That's not an exclamation point on the end of this. That leaves a question for argument. I'm not here to have a question about whether or not I won. I want it to be definite. I want it to be definite so no one can take anything away from it. And as far as you know, the heavyweight division, there's plenty of talent in the heavyweight division. There's plenty of potential exciting fights. So I don't think any of you are going to be too let down, as long as the fighters who show up to bring it. If they show up to just try and slide by, then, you know, none of us are going to be happy watching it.
Thank you, Josh. Let's move on. You, sir.
Hi, guys. I have a question for Josh and Dan. Josh, who want you to fight next? And Dan, what do you think about a rematch between Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz?
I'm absolutely willing to fight whomever. It's really more about the logistics of the UFC, because they have so many events, they have so many guys, and they do a lot of pre-planning into how they want which person to fit in where. And so, you know, I've already had my manager approach him about trying to get me on a card here sooner than later, and hopefully that's going to be the case. But whoever they can find is fine. You know, I haven't met a person I didn't want to punch.
Okay, let's move on. You, sir.
Hi, I have a question for Mr. Dan Hardy. How did you got into the MMA, and what advice would you give to upcoming fighters who want to compete? Thank you.
I got into mixed martial arts because I saw UFC 2, and I thought to myself, this is crazy.
That's my line.
Yeah, it's UFC 2, is that right? Yeah, it's the first one I saw. And I just thought to myself, I'd done so many other different types of competition. I'd done grappling tournaments and Muay Thai and kickboxing and whatever I could find to compete. But the UFC was real. I mean, this was as close as I could get to whatever I wanted to do in a fight. So I had to try it. My advice for up-and-coming fighters is to be smart. Don't feel rushed to get to the UFC. It's not going to pass you by. Take your time, get your experience, make sure you're not beating yourself up in the gym. If you get injured, look after yourself, make sure your conditioning's on point, and make sure you've got good people around you. And that's really all you need. If you're the right person for the job and you've got the skills and the determination, you'll get there regardless.
Okay, thank you, Dan. This mister is waiting for a while. Come on. No, sorry, this guy. Okay, sorry.
Ja ću na hrvatskom, pošto mi engleski ne ide. Jel može?
Može, naravno.
Za Josha, koji mu je poraz najteže pao u karijeri? I za Mishu, šta misli za OSP protiv Johnsona?
Okay. For Misha, OST versus Jones, this is question for you. And for you, Josh, he's wondering what was your hardest defeat in your career?
The hardest defeat, well, all of them are really pretty difficult, because you put so much time and energy into training and preparing and showing up to go out there and defeat your opponent, and to come away with anything less than a win is pretty heart-wrenching. But you know, well, it was really difficult to lose against Daniel Cormier in the finals of the Strikeforce heavyweight tournament, breaking my hand 23 seconds into the first round. and essentially having what was the linchpin of my entire offense and game plan taken away. Although I did continue to hit him with my broken hand, it just, you know, it completely changed everything. And so, you know, regardless of the way the cards were rolled out, because I know I won 2 rounds of that fight for sure, but two is not a fight win. So, you know, but you take the experience from it. And conversely, that was the most difficult loss and arguably my most favorite fight. So.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Misha?
I think that this matchup, John Jones versus OSP, is extremely exciting for me personally. Obviously, John Jones is a favorite, but in this kind of fight, you don't blink, you know. OSP is a huge, big 205er. He's very, very strong. He also has power in his hands, and it's a fight, you know. Those are 4-ounce gloves. You get hit with them, and it's good night, you know. So I'm really excited for the fight. Obviously, John Jones is a favorite, but it's going to be a great fight, and anything can happen.
Okay, thank you. This is the last question, sir, with Polish flag.
Hello, I've got 2 questions. First is to all of you. Give us your predictions to main event, Ben Rothwell or Junior Dos Santos.
Quick one, please.
Okay, that's easy. I'm picking Ben by TKO or KO in the second.
Sir?
Same pick. TKO in the second.
And you?
And I will take the underdog. I think that he's going to outbox him.
Okay, we can take one more. One more. Yes, you, sir.
Okay, thanks you guys that you just came here. It took us 5 hours to come here to see you guys. And I have a very important question for Dan. It's really important for me. I guess you love the Croatian beer like we do. And do you want to go for a beer afterwards? Of course, you are invited.
Okay. Fun one.
You're going to be very disappointed. I haven't had a drink of alcohol in 17 years.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Can we take one more? Yeah, one more, the last one. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you. I've actually got 2 questions for Barnett-san. First one is if there's any, if I remember right, you related yourself to the Elephant Man after your second loss to Pro Cup. If there's any other fight that you, in retrospective, you would relate to a movie character? So I guess that was the question.
That's an interesting question. Okay,
yeah, and the second one, excuse me, is if you could, if there was allowed any finishing or trademark move by any anime or manga or pro wrestling move that you could actually use in the UFC, which one would it be?
Well, I'll correct you first off. It was after fighting Alexander Emelianenko where I made the reference. And it just essentially, a lot of it was I took a good portion of his punches around like the crown area because, you know, this is a very hard part of the head. You could potentially cause someone's hand to break or, you know, it's less likely for you to get knocked out or cut. And taking something up top here, which is an old school pugilism thing from the bare knuckle days of boxing. I'm trying to take shots off the hard parts of the head. So when I got into the back, you know, I had a few lumps here, but my whole head was just dented with all kinds of little hills and valleys. It felt like Ireland up there. So I decided to make, I don't know, I just reached into my inner John Hurt and said, I'm not an animal. But as for any finishing move, I wouldn't use a Hokuto Hyakuretsuken, which is the 100 crack fist of the North Star. I would not use that in the UFC because I don't want to blow anybody's head off, you know, if anybody is a manga fan. But otherwise, I would be just fine hitting a big Liger bomb on somebody and knocking him out in the UFC. That'd be good enough for me.
That's nice. Thank you. Ichiban.
Okay, quick last one, but quick one.
For Josh, when and why have you decided to change your nickname? Because I believe the Babyface Assassin was one of the greatest in MMA, besides Outlaw.
Well, you know, I've heard that quite a bit, and it was a good nickname, given to me by Matt Hume and TJ Thompson when I was fighting down in Hawaii in Super Brawl as like a real fresh-faced kid. But eventually, I wasn't so baby-faced anymore. A few scars here and there, actually having to shave, for instance, and getting some of these hairs coming in that are gray. So eventually, I didn't really feel so babyface anymore. Now, I always come out to music from the band Bolt Thrower from Birmingham, England, and they have an album and a song called War Master, and there is a bit of a play on that with Warhammer 40,000, which is a game from England that has a character called Horus, the War Master, and so the nickname was given to me by Bolt Thrower, the band, and you don't get to pick a nickname, you just get given one, and so at that point, it just seemed I was more grizzled War Master than baby-faced assassin. I mean, I can shave, but it lasts maybe just a few hours.
Okay, thank you, Josh. I'm sorry, guys, but we have to wrap it up. But in 15 minutes, we will be back with the official weigh-ins. Please give it up for this guy, Josh Barnett, Dan Hardy, Misha Circunov. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
May 29th, two undefeated UFC warriors go head-to-head as 21-0 striker Thomas Almeida takes on fellow knockout artist Cody No Love Garbrandt. Plus, former bantamweight champion Renan Barão moves up to face Jeremy Stephens in a featherweight showdown. Live in Las Vegas this Memorial Day weekend, UFC Fight Night. Almeida